This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, OG Star Wars, and welcome to CAF Chat. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning here. Of course, morning my time. So first off, what's in your mug? What are you enjoying as you sit down so we can have this wonderful Star Wars talk with each other, sitting down with our favorite beverage, coffee, and talking Star Wars. Man, when not a better morning, right? Or day for you guys or me. And if you're catching the replay, let me know you came. But all those who are coming to visit here live or on replay, hit that like button. Become a channel member or subscribe, whatever works out for you. It's greatly appreciated. And today we do have some crazy topics. One that was added just very last minute. I think Soul Assassin, he's gonna need some Corellian whiskey. He's gonna need some Corellian whiskey or something after the article I'm going to share about with that Collider did, saying that May from Acolyte, I guess that's her name, is mirroring Revan's story. So there you go. So all you Old Republic fans, brace yourself. I know you guys are such a friggin' passionate bunch, and I totally respect that. Me, that's the Old Republic, and we're talking about Old Republic stuff right now, and even because we're getting into the Sith species today. I figured might as well talk about the Sith species before we get into the exiles and all of that. So that's my weaker point. This is all my weaker point in my knowledge of Star Wars, because I came in as a post Return of the Jedi fan, but didn't play much of any games because I was a busy girl, school, dance, art. I geeked out on all kinds of stuff. And I just couldn't have time to play games after a while, even though I had my own game console and stuff like that growing up. So I kind of missed out on that aspect. And coming into this is also a learning journey for me on stuff that maybe I didn't quite catch when I started picking up on that, on Old Republic, pre-Old Republic, later in my Star Wars life, I guess you could say. So we have that one from Collider for Cringe Factor, and however, we do have another one from Screen Rant. So the classic Screen Rant. So Cringe Factor is going to be double the today. It's about Mon Mothma. Basically, her quote. If you have the book, I recommend grabbing it. Ambush at Corella. This is the Corellian trilogy. And a quote in there, the author to this article misquotes and basically says that Mon Mothma is sharing everything that's wrong with the Jedi. So she's this person, I don't know if it's a he or she, it's David Miller. We spoke about him before. Interesting, because I have a lot to say about this one too. And also the state of Star Wars. We know the state of Star Wars. We know that right now it's like a dead corpse floating in the water, I guess you could say. Because I could say, it's afloat, right? Because, it's still producing stuff. but the corpse is floating in the water. That's the best analogy I can give it. That is the best analogy I can get it. But let me see who's all here. And thank you guys for all popping in. 14 beautiful souls. Hit that like button. Let's see. Enters room like a Sith cramper. Look at you. And then smash that like button. And then thank you so much. And then greetings. Yeah, my merch. I always forget to talk about the merch. I need to switch it from Redbubble to something else. I need to do that. And I need to make some more merch as well. So stay tuned for that. I mean, I have a lot on my plate, but I need to do that so it's more affordable for you guys. But check out the merch. There's like, it has my art, some of my Star Wars art that is you can buy on a t-shirt, on a mug. You can buy on a canvas and hang it up. You can buy it poster wise and hang it up. So check that out. Support the channel that way. It's greatly appreciated, and it also helps out this artist here. You know, so thank you guys so much. Just coming in and hanging out is just wonderful. I love you guys for that. And Anakin Batsy is here. How are you doing? Org here. Good morning with the coffee. Gordon. Yes, we did miss you. Okay, good. I'm glad. I mean, it feels good when you say, "Oh, we miss this every year." I missed this CAF chat and I haven't been here in a while, or I'm returning back, or even once a week. I'm glad we're back. You know, because sometimes I do have to postpone because personal life happens, and I just got to be honest. I can't do the show, and so that's just the way it is. But we're here. I am here as much as possible every Thursday to sit down with my cup of coffee or my cup of CAF and chat Star Wars with you. Now, the state of Star Wars. So I'm going to still go through the chat and chat with you guys. Now, we got the update. We've seen that update from Gina Carano about the lawsuit being pushed forward. So Disney got denied, and so it got pushed forward. So we'll see what comes of that. Will it change anything? I don't know. Will it change the state of Star Wars and the product that they're pushing out? Probably not. So just keep your eyes open, see what's going on, see what's happening. It can come into just an under the table settlement still, and so we'll see what happens with that. It can go so many ways, and I'm not going to sit down and talk about the legalities. Maybe we'll talk about it on the space scene tomorrow. So stay tuned for that tomorrow, 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's my time. The space scene begins. Us guest host panelists, do come in, probably like a half an hour, 45 minutes once the show starts. So maybe we'll discuss it then. So when we have a bigger panel, it's just easier to talk about. I haven't fully read through or listened to Gina Carano, what she had to say about the case going forward. Other than that, I know that it's going forward. And so I'm not going to speak about it here because it's just fair enough for that, because I don't have much to say. Let's see here. And I love it when you guys are saying hello to everybody. Ice cold water. That's good. Always, always, always. I know this is the fitness person in me. Always begin your morning with at least 8 ounces of water. Wake up your organs and flush everything out with water. So that's just my recommendation. And then we get into the whiskey here. So it's asking whiskey after some articles. I need something strong. Yes, I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's crazy how this is. It's like they're trying to push this narrative. Oh, Acolyte's okay. Acolyte's good. Damage control kind of stuff. So Revan's now thrown into the mix for this. So we'll check that out. We missed you like we were Death Star stormtroopers. Well, that's just a meme. You know that they're still very skilled shooters and stuff that they weren't supposed to shoot to kill. So there we go. Coronado's here. I always say Coronado. What the fuck? I always say Coronado. So Conrado. Conrado. I say Coronado. I'm gonna just name you that. I'm so sorry. Conrado, ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagiarist, the fraud? And Iron Inquisitor is here. How are you doing? Good morning. People got my mug. Yes. And of course, we do have Book of the Week. And this one might be a no surprise to you. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So Death Stick or Spice? Probably. Ha ha ha. Let's see here. We should do a talk about like a pause talk, because like I said, Old Republic, especially like going deep into the lore. This is my week of Star Wars, and so with that being said, you know, like to give me time to really sit down and break things down, to give accurate information to you guys and stuff like that. Because I like to do PowerPoints. In fact, I do have a PowerPoint here I'm gonna put up here pretty soon for the Sith talk. Excuse me, I'm just moving stuff around. Is do a break from Sith talk and maybe talk about, like, you know, an indulgence our spirits in Star Wars, like talk about all the type of alcohol beverages and maybe all the other stuff, like maybe even like drugs and stuff. I don't know. I just think that it's something quirky and interesting to talk about, you know, like, oh, they have their own type of brandy or they have their own type of whiskey, and talk about the origins and how it's made, if possible, if we could bring that up. Because you'll be surprised how in depth Star Wars, like the creators in Star Wars, has gotten with and maybe even types of foods like spice loaf and stuff like that. So you know, getting into something like that would be very interesting. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm always open up for ideas and stuff like that. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to you, Star Wars Toys. How are you doing? Okay, let's see here. I'm just pressing. Let's see here. And double dipped cringe today. Yes. So one will talk extensively, one will go through, maybe both, we will. So I love getting into the chat with you guys, because this is what the show is about: saying hello, chatting, talking, questions, answering, all of that. You know, so again, we might go over time. I always like to keep the shows under 2 hours, because it's just easy for everybody to spend that time and not go beyond, because we have our outside lives, right? But we might go over again. We might go over again. So, and get your books here. Yes, I just sent a link out today on this morning on my Twitter, because someone's looking for the Corellian trilogy books, but they don't want the Legends label. And Thrift Books, as far as I've seen it, doesn't have them with the Legends label right now. So if you're looking for books without the Legend label, thriftbooks.com, usually, not all the time, but they do have books, the Star Wars classical novels without the Legends labels. And then speaking of couture, I recently acquired the 30th anniversary of Darth Revan and Darth Malak figures. Wow. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like, that's all under Disney though. So that's why I haven't bought anything, because I don't want to give them my money. I don't. So, but that's pretty cool. I'm glad you're adding to your collection. Let's talk about Sith, baby. Yep. Let's talk about Sith. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about Sith. All right. Gordon says, I think my intro to the Old Republic lore was the first Darth Bane novel one of my good friend gave me in middle school. Yes. You know, my entry to Old Republic was the Darth Bane trilogy. So that was my entry when it started coming out. Like I said, I had so much going on in my life that you know, I couldn't really sit down and get into the games. A lot of people's introductory to Old Republic is the games. That's what I'm seeing. More so than like those who got into the post Return of the Jedi era. That was more or less the novels or the comics. Yeah, you did have some gamers that came in on the game of that end, but I think predominantly Old Republic was all about the games. And that's why you get this this Revan debate on what's better, the game or the novel. Because the novel has so much more expansion in there when it comes to the story and stuff like that, that And then even the visuals and stuff and gameplay is different than novels. We know that. So when you're attached to something and then you get something that's the canon to it and you're attached to that, you might not care for, you know, the source book, I guess you could say. I don't know. That's a big debate in itself, because I've been in those debates with Revan fans and stuff like that. Why Lucasfilm never made a New Legends book? What do you mean New Legends book? I don't understand that one. The spacing, yes. And tonight is the Casual Rage. So check that out. I think it's at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. Don't set me on that, because I know sometimes Raging Rhino changes the time, but I think you put it back to its normal time frame. So check that out tonight as well. And Gibbet is here. How are you doing? Let's see here. People say their bodies are a temple. Well, mine's a fun house today. Are you drinking? Or what are you doing? I mean, that could go so many different ways. Enjoy your fun house. You know, you set me, you know that I was going to say shit. You know that. You know me. And Bot 2 is here. I'm still on, I am still no canon fan, but I, for one, hope Gina Carano, you mean Disney Star Wars, because the canon is what came before. So that includes the movies and the EU games, all of that. So yeah. In fact, I never cared for Gina's character. I didn't care for her Gina Carano's character in Mandalorian when I seen it. So that's the hot take. I don't really care for the series anyways, but yeah, I just didn't care for that character either. You never hear her, blah. You never hear a Darth Plagueis the Wise of Darth Plagueis the Wise. He used to like watching people from behind trees and random islands from afar. He was a Sith legend, and he was a good friend. Hey, what you doing, Matt G? How are you? And let's see here. Hello. How are you? All right. So let's see. If OG was in the Star Wars universe, she'd feel at home in the Jedi Temple archives. Probably. Maybe. Or maybe on Korriban studying. Now, think about that. All right. Spice is bad. Okay. You want some spice cream? whatever it's called on that show. Spice cream or whatever. Yeah. Spice is bad. I agree. Spice is bad. Picking up Golden Age was a good start. Let's see here. Star Wars even has their own chewing gum called Chew Stems. Ha ha ha. There's a lot of stuff in that, right? Oh my God, people are just, you guys are amazing in here. Like we could just chat in the chat all day about Star Wars and it would be fine. Anakin Skywalker's birth is a failed attempt to recruit Jack James twins. Or Rick James, I'm sorry. I said Jack. See, look, I like to rename things even though I'm reading it right in front of us and you. Be right back. Gotta help my neighbor with their boat. Okay. All right. Yeah, I hate Disney. The only thing I bought was the combined omnibus of Dark Empire and Thrawn comics in one volume in hardback. Of course, the stupid legend label is everywhere, though. Yeah, I agree. It is. It's like you have to. It's like Where's Waldo now when you're trying to find a non-legends classical novel and comics and stuff. I loved getting those 30th anniversary figures that came with those collector coins, and they made special collector books to hold them. Yeah. Now I'm going over here and I'm like not even saying hello to all the channel members, but all the channel members coming in as well. Hello to you guys. I'm just like chatting away here, not even paying attention, but you guys are awesome. All of you guys, subscriber, channel members, what have you. I mean, the lesbian witches created twins without a need of a husband. Because, you know, who needs man? Who needs men, right? Well, good for them. I like my man. Yep. Okay. I never cared for Gina's character anyways, nor any of the Disney Star Wars characters. Yeah, that's the same here. It's like, okay, Mary Sue, sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Why am I using that word? But she can punch through Beskar without hurting herself. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Okay. Lucasfilm really hates the New Republic era. Let's see here. Let's see here. I heard Marvel is doing post Return of the Jedi and Battle of Jakku. Or yeah, that's I've seen that too. And it's further destruction. We know that. We don't have to say anything about that. But besides the point, so let's go ahead and get into this. All right, let me go ahead and go back to the first page. Oh, I am on the first page. Now, it was better aligned, but when I downloaded it here to StreamYard, it shifted the text over, but you could still see it. So, of course, I had to nerd out for you guys. I had to nerd out for you guys because this is just how I roll. Now, I'm not going to get into like certain individuals within the Sith culture because that will probably happen when we get into further into like the exiles and people who were, you know, prominent. I just want to introduce the Sith culture to you guys. Most of you guys probably know who the Sith are, at least by knowing that they're a species and they're red and their features and stuff like that. If you don't, well, here we go. You're learning something new. You're learning something new. And of course, you could continue to chat in the chat about things and stuff. And I will try to keep my best track of the chat. So if you have a question or a point that I missed, or if there's something I didn't share and you want to share, feel free to do it because, you know, I'm not trying to give you the whole history of the Sith species and stuff like that. I am just, you know, bringing information into you guys. So for you guys. So if there's something you want to share that maybe I didn't share in the chat or share with you, you can share in the chat. Feel free to do so. That's what CAF Chat's about, you know, so we can all learn from each other, have the conversation, all of that. And then, so Homeworld, Korriban, and Zyos. So they adopted Zyos after 27,000 BBY. And from what I remember, I think the Sith species is as old as 100,000 years old in the Star Wars lore. So BB, you know, so that's when I guess the first account to the Sith species were, you know, was found. And they also were the Rakata try to go over there and take control of them, and they beat their asses and kicked them off, basically, in short. So Rakata tried to come in, and during the Rakata Empire, when they were you know, expanding outwardly and stuff like that, they came to Korriban as well. And after the Sith defeated them, they kept their technology and stuff, so they were able to travel some more and stuff like that. So a small bit of history there. So the features of the Sith, they're sentient humanoids, so they are humanoids. Their skin color is red, but there is obsidian as well. So I think obsidian is the more rarer, you know, color of the skin. The most common is red. When children are born, they look like a very like pink, I guess you could say, or a very light red. And sometimes they stay that light red or that pinkish color. But the predominant color is red, and there is obsidian. So that's the skin color. So just imagine your skin color being red or something like that, you know, just we're so used to like our normal, like seeing, you know, different shades of beige into brown and black, you know, kind of skin color, I guess you can say. And it's very interesting to, you know, how these characters and these species were invented for Star Wars and how creative the creatives were with that. The eye colors, yellow, orange, red, black, white. So you have that Sith eye color that has a little bit of range of that yellow, orange, and stuff like that. That later on, as we get into modern Sith, someone who trained as a Sith, and that goes along with a lot of the Sith alchemy and stuff like that, their eyes can turn. And we've seen that with Anakin. So I want to research that a little bit more and to see why eyes change, even if they don't have any inkling of Sith blood in them, but we'll get into that later. Sith equal catfish people. That's what it kind of reminds you of, the little whiskers, I guess you could say, of the catfish. You forgot the features, sick abs. Look at those handsome fellows. Yes, they were very physical warrior type people. We'll get into more of the culture here pretty soon. Hair color, black, brown, and red. So there you go. And distinctive feature, of course, is the tentacle beards, which was already mentioned. Their facial appendages that hang down from the bottom of the cheekbones and down. Almost looks like their face is kind of melting or something, I guess you could say. But of course, they're tendrils. And they do have spawn burrs in specific areas of their bodies, like below their knee, I think, or just above, I forget. And I think that it's just how their body adapted to their homeworld, and I think that they're kind of protective kind of things there. So hey, Jag, how are you doing? Welcome. Let's. Sorry, I had to highlight that. And so Tor has played Redskin get pale pink when the stronger they were or they got with the dark side. Interesting, because that was never noted when in my research. So I don't know if it's a gameplay feature to let you know that you're getting stronger. I don't know, because it's very, very interesting that like I said, I never played the game, so I can't really say anything about that. But let's see here. Face, tendrils, horns, yes. And then if Lucasfilm ever makes an Old Republic show, they'll make a more girl boss Sith Lords who don't need no Darth, while the men are out of shape. Oh goodness. Let's mix Lucas with Lucas. How about that Korriban graffiti? So Korriban is, I should have brought up pictures of Korriban itself and to show you guys. I didn't even think about that. In fact, I was doing some of my research last night. I was like, crap, I gotta get my on my act and get some of the stuff done for CAF chat. But then I put the PowerPoint together this morning. So I didn't even think about putting images of Korriban. That would have been cool for you guys to see if you guys haven't had a chance to see what it looked like down there on Korriban. But I do have Korriban here. Ziost is another world here that they adopted. And Dromakas, I think one that was a propaganda, or was it? That's not clear. I'm not too clear about it myself on it being another homeworld planet that they occupied at one point. So that one is very interesting here. But yeah, and let me see here. Yeah, Dromakas, yeah. Korriban, Ziost. Of course, their language is Sith. Why wouldn't it be? All right, let me go back to the regular screen so I could see you guys. Okay. When Sith happens, I have a summer home on Korriban. Nice place. A bit sandy though, and Anakin doesn't like sand. It's coarse and rough and gets all over the place. And so here we go. We have the castes here. So getting into the culture, I forgot to put culture and castes here. Getting into the culture, they had their own cultural caste, I guess you can say, and I thought it was very interesting. I think we all were very familiar with the Massassi, because they eventually was taken to Yavin. So, and then you have the Massassi temple over there and all this other stuff. That goes into more Exar Kun and stuff like that, which this right here, there's so many people to discuss regarding the Sith culture, the Sith that we're going to be talking about, the ancient Sith. So many people, so many, but I want to get into the exiles first and take care of that. I think it's important to, show this historical lineage of the Sith, and, lead it all the way up to Palpatine and Vader, because you see so much changes and directions. And then you also look into like how the original Sith species how they fought each other. And it was a culture. It's just something that it was just like their cultural thing to fight each other and stuff like that. And how that fighting and that infighting, also the breeding with the Jedi exiles and stuff like that, how that mentality of probably always fighting each other is why they were destructive and almost like killing themselves as a Sith order, I guess you could say. It's very interesting to ponder and think back about. Very much interesting. Let me see here. All right. You know, some of the names they call them Red Sith or purebloods. So we have those. So some of you guys are very familiar with that. And what else am I missing before we get into the culture? I just want to make sure I got just the basics down for you guys here before we get into so yeah. So but they were also seen as barbarism, like barbarians, I guess you could say. And of course, we talked about the infighting. But they also had a very intelligent civilization as well. So it's very, very, they're very distinctive kind of species, I guess you can say. So, and I think I got everything on the features. Now, I want to get into this I'm going to keep the page where it's at for the, that's the PowerPoint right now, but I want to get into the hybridization. So basically, we are going to get into the exiles and stuff like that. And, excuse me. So, but the hybridization, because the Sith, you know, like I said, there's a caste, and I would have put purebloods on there. I should have put purebloods on there, but it's a little bit irrelevant to this cast here, unless you get into the slaves part, and we'll talk about that. But once they got contact with humans and stuff, there was they started, you know, interbreeding through there were, I guess you could say, somewhat genetically compatible, I guess you could say, and there was also Sith alchemy going on here and stuff like that. And so they were able to breed with humans. And eventually they end up being bred out. But any human that has that Sith ancestry, sometimes there would be, you know, reminders of that biology wise. So like the Sith, they have like 3 appendages on their hands and their feet. So and then like their feet, they have like two toes, and then they have the back toe, I guess you could say. I don't have the right name for that. I'm sorry. My voice is sounding harsh right now. How fun. Let me sip some water. So that's very interesting in itself. And then as you get into the breeding with humans and stuff, then you have some Sith that have 4 fingers, and you know, and then you eventually have 5 fingers and toes and stuff like that. But after a while, Sith pureblood was the one that, you know, were sought out as the hierarchy, I guess you could say, in a sense. So, you know, so that's very interesting, and very much interesting here. Yeah. And I'm not going to get too much into that. There's different historical events within even that history of the hybrid or interbreeding Sith purebloods. You know, and certain individuals like Marco Ragnos and stuff like that, and who they are and how much Sith blood they have. It's and how much they are prominent in the dark side and prominent with their people. It's very, very interesting. A lot going on here. If anything, once the Old Republic was being created, the creators really dove into these characters, these species, the story, everything, and really just started like mapping them out and giving us a clear, almost like a Tolkien, like I guess you could say, clear a world building of this timeline, which probably why it disappointed a lot of Old Republic fans once the buyout happened and everything was just tossed aside. Because there's a lot of there's so much historical, world building and stuff here within this time frame, and it's so amazing just to dive to. So that's my little thing here. Let's see here what you guys are saying. The Old Republic Sith Empire capital ships also look like PTOT Star Destroyers. Yeah, you could see like they were afraid to make things slightly different or a little bit more different since the time frame is further out. And that was a little disappointing to me when I seen that. But then I could see, well, maybe technology, if it's so good, doesn't have to change so much. I don't know. That's just me. Hi, Masquerade. How are you doing? I see you. The jobs that Untouchables would do got done by droids, so they could purge the Untouchables. So let's see here. And the Sith need an enemy to prevent killing each other. Yeah. We'll get more into that. The Old Republic troops look very close to clone troopers. Even without the helmets, they look like Maori, New Zealand Tamara Morrison's. Let's see here. Did I read this one? I think the light dark meter for Sator was early game development made before someone retconned King Adas on Wikipedia from being skin of cinder and ash to skin of charcoal. Pre-first wiki purge stuff. Yeah. Gordon. Okay, let me see here. And cars have changed design, color, and materials over time, but they still look more or less the same. Star Destroyers work the same way, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If there's no need to change other than maybe just to make the appearance look kind of different, I guess you can say, because you have new class, you have even new styles of, like for example, Chevy Tahoes. They still relatively look the same on the outside, but then what you want updated is more or less the technology. So then the appearance, although the appearance will be altered to look sleeker, to look more modern and stuff like that, but you're still going to it's still going to look relatively the same. So, and let's see here. Sith Imperial troopers look like dark troopers. So there we go. So let's get into this. So the culture. And I know that Soul Assassin's helping a friend, his neighbor right now, but he's missing out right now. He'll be here for the cringe factor, though. All right, let me see where I'm at. So the culture. So they were basically in a constant state of war with each other. Their civilization was basically a cruel and barbaric type civilization. And they have primitive practices and even sentient sacrifices to their gods. So you could see why after a while, after the exiles came to Korriban, how they seen these dark Jedi and as gods and stuff like that. So they had alchemy. They really got into the dark side, and all of the like alchemy and all of that within it and stuff like that. And they really studied the dark side a lot. Like I'll say a lot more, but that was their prominent usage of the Force, is the dark side. And let's see here. One of the things that I brought up, or that I'm bringing up now, that I thought I'd put on the slide this morning, but I didn't. I thought we'll just talk about it, is their blood soup. So it is a rigid and stratified caste-based society that does that. The blood soup, I guess you can say, the consumption of the blood soup, which is very, like, if you're not aware of that, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Now, everybody's talking about, oh, these witches on Acolyte. And oh my God, well, you guys, like alchemy magic for the dark side has always been a thing because it's stuff unnatural, right? That's even spoken about by Palpatine. So blood soup is a type of soup that that they began to do that when they encountered the Anazati. And that's probably around 28,000 BBY. And so it's basically they drank the blood soup of their enemy to honor their death. So just imagine that. So they're honoring their death. They're honoring the death of their enemy. Like they're honoring the enemies and drinking their blood. So that's what that's about. And even the Brotherhood of Darkness had drank or ate the blood soup during, you know, like the New Sith Wars and stuff. And that's including Darth Bane and Githany. So just a little history here. Just a little history on this blood soup stuff, which is very interesting. Like I said, don't get too caught up in like, oh my God, Disney's introducing these witches and that was so weird. Yeah, that was weird what they did, some of the things and stuff. But this alchemy and these spells and stuff like that, that's all part of the culture beforehand in Star Wars, especially the dark side, because it's something unnatural, right? And that was even spoken about. And you're back. I'm glad everything went well. Very brutal species, probably more than the Rakata. Yes. And that's the thing. Compare and contrast between the Sith and the Rakata. These guys, I swear, these guys, like just looking into their history, reading more into it. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time now because I have a whole year to get ready for, like little under a year, just giving me some cushion, like well, that's not cushion, but just giving myself a fair timeline of getting my art show done, my solo art show. So I don't have time to play games at all. I thought I would have some time starting this year. No, it's not happening. But to get into all of this lore and then knowing about the Rakata and their history, and then getting into this, diving deeper into the Sith lore, the Sith are brutal. They kick the Rakata's ass. And you missed that. I talked briefly about the Rakata versus the Sith and how they kicked their ass and took their technology, basically. And yeah, so they're very, very brutal species and all of that. Never really cared for the KOTOR SATOR games. For some reason, people overhyped them to me. Ah, okay, that's fair. This has probably had run-ins with an Azadi species since blood soup was their thing. Yeah, that's the Sensei did. They got it from that. So the Anzadi, yeah, the Azadi, and those guys are some crazy species in themselves. I mean, you know, it's Lucasfilm creatives under George and stuff like that, and George is the one that set the spark and stuff and approved of this and stuff like that and allowed this to happen. You know, we have, when we look at all these species that are shown and we read about and learn about, you know, in the lore, there are some crazy, crazy species. There's some very interesting species. There's species you're like, fuck, I would not want to run into these guys, like the Anazati. You know, so very, very, very diverse universe. Very diverse. People think these modern day think diversity is just the color of skin. And I think about it in a more realistic our world approach when it comes to these fantasies. Instead of looking at the bigger picture and looking further into like these different humanoids, like the Sith species, and the Anazati, among others, like the Rakata, and how diverse they are, not only in appearance, because diversity is not all about appearance. We need to get past the superficial crap, right? Of what someone looks like for diversity, and look into more of culture, more of beliefs, more of how they live, where they live, what influences them, right? And that's what George and his company did. Their diversity for Star Wars universe is expansive, is intriguing. And I am safe to say that so far, Disney Star Wars has never topped that yet. Never, has not in the moment topped how special Star Wars is in its creativity and world building with these species, I wouldn't say individuals, but these species and their cultures, all of that. So I'm going to step off my soapbox. Let's get back into this because we need to get into the cast here. But you guys are just jamming along in the chat here. So let me see what you're saying. I liked how the Anazati gave Aura Singh that antenna implant in her head that allows her to feed off fear of her victims. Yeah, that's crazy. The Sith are space sorcerers anyways. Yes. I have Tales of the Jedi, the collection to boot. That's pretty cool. See, chat, the EU is full of crazy creatures and civilizations that make Disney look like a joke, which is not that hard. They make themselves look like a joke without even considering pre-Disney stuff. I like to read Tales of the Jedi one day. I've read some excerpts before, and I like those. Okay. Yeah, so definitely think that they're all related since both are taking the person's power. I know that was too so, but I read it anyways. The TCW and Star Wars universe has become smaller and smaller. There are tons of species, planets, and cultures back then. Yes. Now, George may not have sat down and been like a Tolkien and developed everything through his own mind and his vision, but he still developed a lot and brought it on screen and worked with individuals to help further create this world that he was building in similar to his vision. Some things probably not at all, but he still allowed it to happen. But they all had to abide by rules and what George wanted per the lore and all that. So I prefer to call them Lucasfilm because it is Kennedy film that has taken over. Everybody has their own way of saying it, I guess. Expansive, hence the keyword expanded in the EU, correct? I love it how people are like, I like the extended universe, but they still backhandedly say something about it, but they call it extended. So you can tell they're full of shit because once you see the extended universe, the backhanded sly remarks are coming out. Disney isn't diverse. It's all humans. EU has all kinds of aliens, correct? I would know. I want to know what the Sith dude workout is. Look at that 6-pack. I know. I seen that. I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna put some. Because I'm a female Star Wars fan. Why not? We have our expanded bootyverse tomorrow night. So let me have a little bit of my eye candy here. So you guys are lucky that's all that I've showed. No, I'm joking. Old Disney are more diverse than New Iger. Old Disney? That doesn't make sense. Like Old Disney because it was never Disney. I also refuse to call it Disney as much as Bob Iger overhauled everything, scrubbed that snake. Let's see here. Okay, so in Brazil, a negative stereotype on gopher dogs. All right, let's get back into this culture part here, because like I said, we have 2 cringe facts and it's already at the top of the hour. Like I said, I'm not getting into individuals. I know there's important individuals per Sith history, pre-exile as well, but I think once I get into the exile portion next week, we'll get into the important Sith beforehand, and so on. I want to just give you an overview of the Sith culture and stuff. So, so let's get into the castes. So there was different societies or hierarchical systems within the Sith. So they're basically ranking structures. You know, it's common in different societies, especially in one that's as barbaric, that the culture is all about fighting, battles, and stuff like that. And like I said, when you look at the Sith culture, the Sith species in general, not the culture, and their ways and their tactics of fighting, it's part of their culture, stuff like that. After all the after all the breeding out with humans and stuff, and finally the Sith like disappearing as a species because of that, I think that mentality of the Sith fighting stayed with them when we got to the Brotherhood of Darkness and all them, because I think that system or that way still stayed true, I guess you could say. And it was very detrimental to the species at hand. That's why Bane came up with the help of like ideas from Revan on the Rule of Two, to stop that infighting, because that was not productive for the Sith in general, as an order, as a species, as a culture, I guess you can say. And so I'm thinking like that influence stayed with the Sith for a very, very long time, and Bane went to correct that. So, you know, that's more in depth of the history of the infighting, I guess you can say. So here are the castes within the Sith. You have the Zagaruk. I think I said that, or Zugaruk. I think I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. So they're basically loyal engineers who built and maintained Sith technology. And technology is basically, they were very smart. They're very intelligent beings as well. And it's including the droid, starships, you know, tombs, all of that. So they were the ones that basically were responsible for, you know, building up the Sith society, technology, and all that stuff. So they were in their own caste themselves. And then you have the Masasi, which is probably more similar, sounds more similar, familiar to you. They were the warriors. They were a lot taller and stronger than the other Sith castes. And they also had the natural Sith aggression. And, you know, of course, they were in charge of the Sith military as well. And, but in a sense, well, they were part of the Sith military, but they weren't necessarily in charge of them. So I'll take that back and walk back on that one. They weren't as intelligent to lead, but they were trained enough to fight and stuff. So they were basically the warriors, like I said, the warriors. And let's see here, let's move on. And then Kasai caste, so I think I said that right, were basically the priests. So they're the ones that were known to study the nature of the dark side of the Force. And they also practiced and studied ancient Sith magic and alchemy, which basically throughout the Sith lore, when you even get to, like, we talked about this before, and if you watch Talking EU, we talked about it there, about how Darth Plagueis went more of the scientific way and basically looked down on the Sith magic and alchemy, and told Palpatine not to study that. But Palpatine's like, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want, right? So basically, you know, so they're the Kasai are the ones that were the priests, the ones that kept up the faith of the Sith. And they were also just as ruthless as the Masasi, but more intelligent. They were observant, but they didn't have the physical advantages as the Masasi. So we have that there. So that, and then of course, then you have the slaves. They weren't basically a caste like, but they were considered, you know, like the very bottom low of this societal system. And It could be a myriad of different species, even humans, even their own kinds. In fact, like if you seem unworthy, deemed unworthy, and like I said, after years of breeding with humans and stuff like that, sometimes like if you didn't look too authentic and you didn't seem too worthy of any of the other castes, you could become a slave. So that's how ruthless they are. You know, it's like they are very, very like proud people, I guess you could say. So proud that they had the infighting and they had it as a cultural thing. Very smart and intelligent as well. So let me see what you guys are saying. How are you doing, Mr. Dystopian? Yes, that was such a good show. Good show. So what do you guys think about so far about the Sith so far, learning about the Sith species? Because when we talk about the Sith, we're talking about those that they just adopt the Sith culture and the Sith order. So the Sith order and the culture within it, after centuries, millennium, you know, of you know, it being handed down and changed and knowledge being lost or destroyed or, you know, what have you. Disney has been going downhill since Walt died. It took time for the commies to get into the position to fulfill their threat to destroy Walt's legacy. Let me see. For some reason, the longest time I've never associated, let me read that again. For some reason, for the longest time, I never associated the Misasi with the Sith species. Just thought they were a separate group. Ha ha ha. No, they are part. They are part. Very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. That's one thing that we can get into because we have the Misasi temple and stuff on Yavin. It goes into that. I wonder how George Lucas came up with the same Sith. Speculations can only go so far. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So I shared Tom Veitch is one that had met with George and helped develop like the Sith culture and all this other stuff. So I shared a quote. Let me see. I'll pull it up right now. But I shared a quote with of Tom on my Twitter. So let me pull that up. I'll read it here. It doesn't give us very much information, but I thought maybe I'd share it with you. They were a race of magicians. Certain Jedi who became very strong in the dark side mastered the Sith people and took control of their society. Those Jedi who called themselves the Dark Lords of the Sith began a tradition, passing their rule from generation to generation. Darth Vader is just the latest in the long line stretching back thousands of years, and that's from Tom Veitch. So he has met with George, like I said, you know, to create this lore and the rule of two. I guess you could say, in a sense, it wasn't really too much into the rule of two, but he met with George on that. So, there, you know, so once I find out more, dive in deeper, and I'm able to uncover, you know, different quotes and developmental information and stuff like that. So that'd be interesting to share with you guys. Why are the Sith racist against the six species? They're not racist against their own, in a sense. Let's see here. I wonder how George Lucas came out with the name Sith. You know what? I wonder about that with a lot of things that he named in Star Wars. The Sith used more standard weapons, but used poisons on blades. Badass with Ajunta. Yes, we'll get into her. We'll get into Ajunta. Besides the Sith leader who, with his own double-bladed weapon, when Dark Jedi exiles arrived on Korriban. Yeah, so stay tuned next week. We will finally get into the exiles. I wanted to talk about the Sith culture, the Sith species beforehand, because then once we get to the Sith exiles, we can understand that this is a total different species and that these exiles are influencing and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, rest in peace to Tom. In fact, I'll play a clip of him pretty soon before we segue into our cringe factor. Filoni disrespects Veitch name by naming his series of shorts called Tales of the Jedi. Yeah, that's another one here. And so basically biology, hybridization, basically we kind of went into already. And so it's basically they were somewhat compatible with the humans. And of course, Sith magic, sorcery, or whatever you want to call that, also played into the breeding with the Sith and stuff. And eventually, the Sith were bred out, but not the culture, not the ways, all of that. Let me see. Is that the last one? And then I'm just going to go brush upon certain historical events. We're not going to get into them because if we did, we'd be here all friggin' day. All friggin' day. So, of course, technology, they were, some of the alchemy allowed them to imbue objects with living beings and dark side. They were known to make their own Sith, like hybridizations of different type of hounds and stuff like that to make their own like Sith hounds and stuff like that. So there's that. And of course, they were really keen onto making their own type of technology as well. I'm not going to get into that. So you have the early civilization, and then we talked about their barbaric ways and stuff like that. Again, they were described to have began around 100,000 year BBY. And they were also, basically defeated the Rakata when they came to their planet and took their technology and stuff. There's a lot of history within that old, like I said, I don't want to get into. And then you have the Sith Ari, the unification, which goes into King Addis. And I spoke of him briefly because of his skin color and stuff like that. He's very influential, and we'll talk about him next week as we get into the Jedi exiles. I think that this is someone that needs to be talked about and then we'll get into the Jedi exile. So we'll do that as we get into that. And then you have the Jannari, the exile time frame. And of course, that's what we'll discuss. And that happened around, I didn't write it down. Damn it. I didn't write it down. Should have had that. And of course, they have the conquest. Jannari had the conquest of Korriban, and the Sith basically seen them as gods and stuff. And that's where all that influence began. We'll get into, I don't want to get into all that. Then you have the end of the Golden Age that happened around about 5,000 BBY. And basically that, had like Marka Ragnos is a Sith half-breed and rose to the position of Dark Lord of the Sith. That's during that time frame. So if you're familiar with that, you'll know exactly what the end of the Golden Age is and stuff. I don't want, like I said, I'm just giving you a timeline here because I don't want to get fully into this because then we'll be here all day and we can pick up on some of this as we get more into the Sith history. The Great Hyperspace are another one. And, you have influencers like Sadao and Xian. Yeah, so all of these different historical events here. Then, of course, it leads you all the way into the Great Sith War, which is another one. And then their aftermath. And then all the way into, of course, leading into the PT era and all that. So we'll get into more of that. I think the Sith history and the Sith lore is going to be a very expansive, and I think we're going to be discussing it for I think probably as longer than we discussed Darth Krayt, longer than that. So, and I'm looking forward to this. What's that? Sorry, chat. No Zeltron lore stream. Too many red flags and images that might get OG's channel struck. He just was hoping and praying that I would do a history of Zeltrons and stuff like that. Mark Aragnos' death was the end point. Yes, we'll get into that as we go. But like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, because when you start talking about events, you got to talk about the people who were in these events that influence these events. So basically, I just gave you a quick timeline here. I'm going to play Tom Veich's the video I have of his, but let me read this first. 2 levels of alchemy: the novice imbued objects and non-living items. More verse experienced alchemists use their alchemy on living beings. Correct. And we'll get into the Sith hounds and stuff like that. So eventually we'll get into all of that. So I think it's very important because of what Acolyte has brought. It's supposed to be about the Sith. As Headland said, I think it's very important to cover all about the Sith lore pertaining to pre-Disney stuff. And let me see what you have to say. I remember reading somewhere that Maul asked Palps if the Sith still exist in the galaxy, and Palps said, it's possible. Let's see here. Zeltron emoji next level. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I still have to put some new emojis up. We'll see. I do have Jaina up there and Jason. So all those channel members, you guys can, use them anytime you want. So let me go ahead and take this down. First of all, let's get into book of the week. Then I'll play Tom's video. This gives you guys a chance to go refresh your beverages, grab something to eat, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. Here's your potty. Here's your rest break. Here's your rest break. But first of all, let's get into this.
I hate to say it, but it looks like
Story.
the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
All right. Since one of the Cringe Factors articles is about a quote in a book, I figured why not just keep it more I guess you could say in tune with what we're talking about. And the book is going to be this one right here. Ambush at Corellia. So this is book 1 of the Corellian trilogy. And I think it's a fun read. It's probably not one of the better trilogies, but I think it's one worth diving into, especially if you're invested in Jaina, Jason, and Anakin. And if you're a big Corellian type, Corellian planet, Corellian people, if you're into, if that's, your favorite and stuff like that, I would highly recommend this. This also gets into the Centerpoint Station as well. And some newer technology to why the Corellian system is being blocked off from the rest of the galaxy. And also gets into Lando and how he wants to find himself a wife. And this goes into how he and Tendra get together. So has a bit of Lando in there. Of course, Luke and Leia and stuff like that. But more so it's focused on the Solo family. And it does have Mara Jade in here, which to me, she feels a little off. I don't think the authors of this book, this trilogy, really got the essence of her character as much as others. Of course, Zahn can't beat him. He's the one who created her. But I think that, who is the author here again? Roger McBride Ellen is the one that, she's kind of off a little tiny bit, but you could still see that the essence of her. So I recommend this. It's a fun read, especially if you like, Corellian, Han Solo, the family, if you're into the Solo kids and their journey of growing up as young Jedi and stuff like that. So check it out. This is the book of the week for CAF Chat's book of the week. Let me see here. And what are you guys saying? Dang, shouldn't have tuned in right at the end of my lunch break. I'll try to listen at work. That's okay. And you've been Jocasta, right? Jocasta, flawless victory, right? I love that. I love the video I put up of this right here. That was just amazing. It's just something that that's one of my ones I love. Let's see here. And Zeltron still sounds like Pharma. Ask your Darth if Zeltron is right for you. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my God. And let's see here. Apparently, Adi and Stas List's parents were Corellian diplomats on Coruscant, but their species is, Tholithean or something like that. I think I said that right. Lando looking for a wife. What happened? Did he get tired of digging droids? This is pre-Disney. This is classical Star Wars. And more than anything else in this here. So we're not talking about Disney Star Wars. And I want to get my hands on the Lando trilogy. Yes, you might want to look at thriftbooks.com to check that out. You might be able to find it there. Does Lando scissor fist feminist droids? Not in Disney, or not in Lucasfilm era Star Wars. All right. Pando, ha ha ha. So, poor Lando. Oh my God, you guys. They just turned him into a friggin' meme now. This is EU, back when Lando used Colt 45 and it worked every time. Yes. And in fact, let's go ahead and play this real quick here. One more. There we go. And says, sorry, but I'm still salty. That's okay. That's okay. And Justina Ireland really does know Lando. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip of Tom Veitch that I did. It's about 5 minutes, and then we'll get into cringe factor. Now, I wonder if I should talk about the May versus Revan first and then get into the other one that I have scheduled. We might do that. So since we're stuck right now still in the Old Republic era of Star Wars, we'll just get into that. So all you Old Republic Revan fans, go grab a hard one. And I'm talking about a drink. And I know it's too early for me to talk that way, but that's just how I am. And get yourself seated because we are going to get into some crazy shit. But for right now, let's get into a certain video here. Let me find it. I thought I had it right. Oh, here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Sorry about that. That's the wrong one. Ha ha ha. Dun dun dun. That's a mistake. Did I leave the video up here? Where is that interview video? Did I take it down? No, I think I might have. Oh no, it's no. Was that it? I think so.
3, 2, 1.
Well, that's not it. Where is that video that I had of Tom Veitch that I played here before? I think I might have. I'm having a Tim moment here. It's right here, I think.
Vader was seduced by the...
That's not it. Oh my goodness. I guess I took it down. I think I did. Oh no, I'm so sad. Oh. That sucks. I thought I still had it on here. Digging the house music, yeah. Time to get funky, funky, funky. You know what? I think I took it down to make room for something here. I am so sad. But I wonder, because it has a picture of Tom Veitch and it says intro. Let's play it anyways. I'm curious now.
3, 2, 1.
All canon. Everything published was canon.
Good day, Star Wars fans. Long live George Lucas era of Star Wars. If you are new here, welcome, welcome. I have been watching, researching, comparing, and contrasting the original lore to Disney's Star Wars lore. I have shown disdain on a beloved title being used for a new miniseries, and that is Tales of the Jedi. Taking a very loved Old Republic story title to try to recreate a similar feeling to a different story era, hoping to appease the expanded universe fans they told aren't wanted anymore. The show has 6 episodes, mostly written by Dave Filoni. Those who don't know, he is the creator and director of The Clone Wars. The average runtime of Tales of the Jedi short stories is about 15 minutes. Not a lot of time to develop a story or character. The dialogue isn't very intriguing. Continuity is not in line with their own stories and lore. Clone Wars by Tartakovsky, which had little dialogue with a short story and plot, gave more depth and development. Thinking about how I have disagreed with the title use, why did they not pay respect to the creator of the original and true Tales of the Jedi, Tom Veitch, who passed away February of this year? No, he is not the only contributor, but is the main writer and developer of the stories. You would have thought Disney Lucasfilm would give a respectful note to the creator behind the original title they appropriated. After all, Tom Veitch and George Lucas created the Sith lore together. This brings to mind how Disney Lucasfilm praised Filoni for the Night Sisters and the Dathomirian Witches in a publication that came out on the passing of Dave Wolverton. It took people like Open Airlock Policy and myself to gain Disney Lucasfilm's attention to take notice and pay respect. Tom's passing was due to complications of COVID, leaving his daughter, Angelica Stasola, to organize a GoFundMe to help Veitch's widow, her mom, Martha, keep her home and medical care through the funeral expenses. As of now, I don't know any of the outcome. It is unclear if Disney Lucasfilm helped with any expenses. As we know, they can't honor contracts with their authors. Why would they reach out and help? This is clearly what a corporation does. There is no compassion and honor to who came before. They just want to suck the legacy dry. The titles even look the same. Don't be mistaken. The company and its lore is as disingenuous as its approach and handling of what came before. Let's hold them accountable for their actions. Rest in peace, Tom Veitch. Thank you for your contribution to the original Star Wars lore.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
Eventually.
This is how
Star
Luke
Wars.
dies. With thunderous applause.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
So uncivilized.
Let's get into, oh, what the hell? My internet's showing that it's like kind of like the connection's kind of going flaky a little bit. So sorry about that. Yuck. Right? Oh my God. Let's see here. So that was the bit of Tom Veitch and what happened with others pertaining to Disney, Lucasfilm, and how they are not honest and they don't, pay respect to what have came before, even though, we had Filoni saying, they should honor, right, in that interview that I've shared here before. And so hopefully you take note. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to follow up on Tom Veitch's funeral expenses and all this other stuff, but I just wanted to, give note to what was going on during the time and what had happened and all that. So there's the whole video without all the little things that I edited for this clip. I have a video from that and stuff. But with this being said, we do have this first cringe factor we're not going to spend too much time on, but I wanted to get into this with you guys here. And Pura says, I was reading this before I jumped on walking the dog. Reach. Yes, exactly. This is a huge reach. This is a cringe factor. And Soul Assassin did share this with me this morning, and he shared it in wholeheartedly disgust. And I totally agree with him. There's no comparison between Revan and May as characters. And just because a person's mind is wiped for whatever reason doesn't mean that they are mirroring. Because if that's the fact, then when Jason mind wiped Ben in a Darkness trilogy, I believe it was. Yes, it was Darkness. And then I think he did it again to him beforehand or afterwards, but Darkness for sure. Then you can say, oh, in this type of logic from Collider, this is Ryan Looney. So this is a loony take, basically. And I say that literally too, pun intended. If you want to say just because the mind was white, it's mirroring Revan, you are fucking insane. You are insane here. So let's get into this here. Maid Osha, here are these little notes here, which are we can get the gist of what's being said. Maid Osha's fate mirrors Revan. So it's not just Maid, it's Osha's as well. How in the hell is that? But anyways, with the potential for redemption and impact on the galaxy, like the legendary character, basically Revan. The Revan story offers a roadmap for May's journey. Does it now? What do you guys think? I think I have a few Old Republic fans in here. Maybe are big fans of Revan. Do you think it is a roadmap for Mace? And did you watch, or did you have at least some insight on what the story is about, Acolyte? And then influencing not just the Star Wars universe, but the potentially series outcome. Well, first of all, wasn't the series a one-time thing that they weren't going to have a season 2? But because they threw Plagueis in there, now they're like, oh, we threw Plagueis in here. Now everybody wants a season 2. It was just a bait, a nostalgia bait. Despite dark paths chosen, May and Osha may still have a chance for redemption and survival, echoing the theme of turning back to the light. Now, if any of these happen so close to the PT era, especially with Yoda in the mix, then it goes against the disbelief of the Jedi having on redemption when we get into the PT, especially when we get into the OT, because we're still dealing with the same people. So that destroys the lore there in itself. So let's see here. So Nelly goes out of its way to leave many different possibilities for our new season. So blah blah blah. So now so you know we have that brainwashing. Basically, it's not brainwashing, it's mind wipe. So get your facts straight. So basically, the mind wiping May brings to mind the example of Revan, a fan favorite character of the expanded universe continuity, who found himself being captured and reprogrammed by the Jedi. So she wasn't recaptured by the Jedi, and they didn't mind wipe her. There's the difference there. She willfully locked herself. From what I take from looking and investigating into that scene, she willfully let her mind be wiped. So how is that comparable to Revan? So let me see here. I'm going to skip that. So who exactly is Darth Revan in Star Wars? Okay, so let's think about this. The story of Revan can feel a bit odd to describe because he was only a mere template for the player of the original Knights of the Old Republic game. Yes, but then he also has a story. So don't just talk about the game. Talk about the canon story, the novel. Which later started greater. Okay, so this is what I get for not reading, but in novel, comics, and other video games. In the video game, you play an unidentified Jedi who was trained much later than most and remain tasked with locating the map of the Star Forge, one of the many ancient super weapons used by the Sith lords over the millennia. When you finally confront the game's villain, Darth in the third act of the game, explains that you are in fact Revan. Okay, so in the beginning he's mysterious, but basically he is Revan. It doesn't matter if the character is mysterious in the beginning, we find out who they are. So it's not like it's it's always been a mysterious thing. Who was ambushed by the elite Jedi strike team led by your love interest Bastila Shan, betrayed by Melek. So there you go. So that's the gameplay here. And then the critically wounded Revan was captured and reprogrammed by the Jedi Council with a new identity, using him as a living weapon against Melek. Basically, they have to, destroy Sith. I mean, so there you go. Helping him escape at the expense of her own capture, Bastila is coerced to join the dark side through torture and later confronts Revan, who uses their bond to defeat her and confronts Melek and the Star Forge. So let me see what you guys are saying before I read more into this. Probably don't need to read that story. You guys are already know. Collider, Revan has no story. Me, geez, let me tell you about Revan. Grab your chair and you're gonna need one. Revan, Melek, and Raven just had their opinion on what the Force wanted them to do and had good intentions. The Jedi Order chose to stand by and not interfere. And then the Sky references the book, and you can tell that he didn't really read it. Yeah, I was getting to that. And so he is basically half-heartedly reporting about the history of Revan without knowing like the nuances and the story behind everything that had happened. And he's picking out, cherry picking, nitpicking, whatever you want to fucking call it, and out stuff to make it sound like Revan and these stupid twins are the same. Yeah. Let's see here. Come on. Work with me. There we go. Oops. All right. I find it funny. They don't talk about Revan and Bastila being a dyad in this story, but that was all the talk when Disney retconned Rule of Two and was trying to validate the dyad. Correct. All right, so let's get back into this. I'm going to skip over his storyline here because we already proved that he. And then he goes on to say other works have explored Revan both before and after the game, given much more insight to his unique character. In Knights of the Old Republic 2, the character is a former student of Revan, officially named Mitra Surik, but only referred to as the exile in the game. Your teacher is the name your teacher in the game is Korea. So we're going into that. So I'm just going to skip all over through this. So I always like that picture here. But anyways, let's get down here. So we're getting into May. So we're going to get into May, and then we're going to talk about this, and we're going to get into the other article. The story of May is different. It's very different from Revan. It's very different. Key words right here. So what the fuck are you doing to saying that they are marrying each other when the story is very different? All right. So should we just end here because he just basically just went against his own story, his own thinking on this. Partially because of how it was told to the audience. Poor writing. Maybe, I don't know. Due to Revan being handled by different writers and okay, so let's go here. Due to Revan being intelligently written by people who cared about the lore and a company that at that time cared about continuity versus a writer they brought in because of diversity, which was only the qualification, and bringing in writers who don't even know anything about Star Wars and didn't care about Star Wars, and having a guy who really never cared about Star Wars himself, Filoni, given script notes. This is the difference. Filoni was never involved in the Revan stuff, right? So you could throw that as a compare and contrast in how these stories are, right? So let's go on after pointing out these important details. Due to Revan being handled by different writers and different mediums over the years in a different company together, his discovery of the Sith after destroying Mandalore and fall to the dark side has been portrayed in opposite ways. Okay, so the Sith were prominent during that time. They weren't in hiding per se. Where May was created and the Acolytes created in the timeline that's supposed to mirror the EU, like the timeline. I'm not saying the stories or anything else. It's about like 100 years before, or a little over 100 years before the Phantom Menace, right? So there's no comparison because at the time frame where she lies, the Sith are hiding, and the galaxy, including the Jedi, think they're extinct. There's a huge difference in that because they just got done. The Sith are influencing them still. That's why the Mandalore War happened here. It's because of the Sith. They're not needing to hide like how we see for what leads up to the Phantom Menace. So let's go on. And so it goes on. Sith or after Mandalore fall to the dark side has been portrayed in opposite ways, which is no surprise for a series with so many continuity problems over the decades. So now they're saying, oh, well, there was continuity problems in the EU over the decades. So they're going to throw that bullshit out. The video game noted that Revan deliberately gave up his soul in a sense to defeat and unite the Republic against a greater evil, but the Revan novel suggests he was simply brainwashed by the Sith Emperor Darth Vaish. I always have a hard time saying his name. Vaitate. So game is different than an actual canon novel. But when you read the canon novel, he still gives himself up, his soul, and he's put in this stasis, you can say, for a while. I'm gonna see what you guys are saying before I move on. We're gonna be here for a little longer because I want to do the other one too. To quote Kenobi, and hello, Melissa Lord, I see you. I can't watch anymore. This article is trash. Dina Shan is the only connection with Revan during the Imperial era. Let me see here. Comparing May to Revan, laugh my ass off. They are grasping straws. Significantly, I agree with the expectation of Ahsoka Tano. Why are all the protagonists in Star Wars humans? Thank you, Bishit. Okay. See, I always say it fucking wrong, and I'm always saying it in different ways. That's just me, Bishit. Okay, thank you. All right. Let's get back to this and let's end our misery and go into the next, right? What they keep, however, is the idea that Revan was brainwashed by the Jedi into going back to the light, basically redeeming him against his will. However, the fact that he forgave them and never again became wholly committed to the dark side gave him an aura of a gray. Oh, fuck you with this gray mortality. He was never fucking gray because he stayed in the light. His focus was stay in the light to help the galaxy, you know, and put himself through what he did. Something that has come to define his character with the eyes of so many fans, to say nothing of his immense power in the Force as a user of both sides of. Okay, so when he used the dark side, he was dark side. When you use the light side, he was light side. There's no fucking gray morality here. Holy shit. As perhaps the most influential character of his ancient era, legacy of Revan, both within the story and the actual fan base, still remains profound. Conversely, the character of May is told from a chronological perspective, but also in reverse. Oh, it's reverse? So if it's in fucking reverse, then shouldn't she have been brainwashed first by the Sith, like her mind wiped? Although she starts in the dark. Oh, they're saying it because she starts dark side. She is similarly forced into the Jedi through brainwashing. They brainwashed her and basically let her go on her way. I don't know. What do you guys think? Now the Sith, now by the Sith to preserve their own survival. She also has similarities to Revan on a spiritual level. What the fuck? What spiritual level? He never went into like any type of witchery or anything. She is literally the half of the same person in exact way. Revan has both light and dark. Oh, fuck you with this bullshit. So Sassen, I could see why you were like very irate this morning. Fuck you with this bullshit. Because someone goes light then dark and returns doesn't mean that they have a duality personality or they are like a half of a whole person. She is made by these fucking witches. And you can't even tell, like they're so poorly written, you can't even tell who was light and dark because their motivations were so off. Even without the ethical questions of mind wiping and involuntary reprogramming, both also explore. Oh, no. She was up for the mind wipe, from what I've seen. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat if you guys have watched. And then it says both also explore the biggest flaws of the Jedi as an institution through their storyline and characters. Like Kriya before him, Revan explores a moral bias of the Jedi and their codependent relationship with the Republic. They always have served their the Republic in shape, way, or form throughout the whole galaxy. That's not a flaw. The flaw is forgetting about the whole galaxy in its entirety. Okay, let's see here. Given their refusal to interfere, the Mandalorian Wars left him to take matters into his own hands. On the other hand, was the folly of recruiting children. That has nothing to do with him going into the Mandalorian War versus Jedi's being recruited. And the reason why Jedi go, and they're not claiming monopoly of Force users, but they see it's better for them to take children, not take, but ask permission for children to come in and become a part of the order, train and stuff like that, because the galaxy would be better off for these special beings that can harness the Force, use it for good and use it for light, and then use it for dark and something happen like, like this, Ember, So that's not a flaw. It's not a flaw in itself. Although his number of appearances in the series are smaller than many other EU favorites like Thrawn or Mara Jade, the influence of Revan remains quite profound both in the Star Wars universe outside of it, and might serve as a roadmap. Oh, so now you're saying might serve. So you're saying that her story is very different, and you've basically proven how different it is, other than the mind wipe and stuff. And then you said it might serve as a roadmap. Oh, this is bullshit. We're done. We're done. We're done. We're not even going to get into the rule of two of this and stuff. We are fucking done with what you guys are saying. Oh my God, Star Wars Marvel purists. It says this. He says this article is discredit to the amazing writing of Drew Carpathian for the Revan game and the book. To compare Leslie Headland's retard writing to Drew is like comparing Greedo to Darth Sidious. Correct. I agree. And Harry, hey, Means the Destruction, how are you doing? I see you. Let me scroll up a bit. And if I'm missing some of your guys' comments, it's not intentional. Melissa says Revan is more like Damien Targaryen, equal parts light and dark. May is a headless self-insert, one-dimensional character. And let's see here. So they also explore what? Excuse me. Disney is using the witch daughters as a proto-dyad. And Anakin is supposed to be the chosen one, but they already made Rey the chosen one in The Rise of Skywalker and are giving Luke's story to reveal Jedi Order. Yeah, that's all we know. I mean, that's all. They're destroying the legacy that George created. Revan was no gray Jedi. He even spoke out against the idea of being both light and dark. It's correct. Correct. That's why I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Mayosha. Mayosha. Okay. So with this being said, Collider is full of shit. Let's get into the next one. This one's going to go now into the post-Return of the Jedi era, probably about, I don't know, let me look, it's pre-timeline publishing inside the book, so it's not in here. But this is like maybe a few years before the new Jedi Order. So I would say about 5 or 6 or something like that, maybe. I'm guessing on top of that. So this article here. So we're going to now switch gears. Get out of the old Republic after we're all pissed off right now. What's going on with post-Return of the Jedi stuff about how the Jedi are bad or how they are mad. Pull up that article for all of us here. And which one is it? Oh, here it is. I have it in a different window. And this also kind of hurts Mon Mothma's character. And this is Screen Rant. And again, the writer is David Miller for this. And so we're going, it's like both ends are being attacked. That sounds so fucking funny. But both ends of the timeline are being attacked. We're not necessarily going all the way to Legacy era, but this is like maybe 5 or so years from the new Jedi Order. So Mon Mothma is still alive here, but she's very much an elder lady now. She's no longer the president or what have you of the Republic now. Leia now has that position in this part of the timeline here. And so this goes on to say, one classic Star Wars legends are basically classical Star Wars quote shows everything that's wrong with the Jedi. Now, this is going to be fun. The Jedi are bad in K. Yep. K. Yeah. All right. So let me go back to the article. Yeah, like I said, I have it in a different window. So the summary here, the Jedi Order and I have my book. I have the book opened here to the right pages, basically. I was going to record the Audible part of it because I have it on Audible. But the whole quote that I'm going to share here that's shared in this article is not in the Audible. But we're going to get into depth of what's really going on here. This writer, David Miller, basically is grasping some straws, trying to make the Jedi look wrong or bad per what's being shown now in Disney Star Wars. So the Jedi Order in the prequels were flawed due to complacency and detachment from the citizens of the Galactic Republic. No, they weren't. They worked for the citizens of the Galactic Republic. That's even evidence in, you could see that even in the PT, it's not very, because the story plot is focusing on the Order and the war, what Palpatine set up, we're not seeing much of like them going out and working in the greater galaxy. But when you get into the EU, you have Jedis being stationed out in different areas of the galaxy into different sectors and stuff like that. Luke Skywalker in Star Wars Legends established a reformed Jedi Order that learned from the past mistakes of the prequel. Yes, that is known. That is the new Jedi Order. And Yoda seen that he would do that. And he said it was time for the Jedi Order to evolve. Rey's Jedi Order in the modern canon, so in Disney canon, repeats the same mistakes as the prequels, failing to evolve like Luke did in the original EU. So are they saying that Luke failed to evolve in the legend? Is that how I'm reading that? Because you just said that Luke established and reformed the Jedi Order, and now you're saying she's repeating the same mistake, failing to evolve. Okay, like Luke did invent. Okay, so he did evolve. Okay, so I got that wrong. I just let my mind wrap around it too many times that it didn't make sense to me. So let's get into this article. And it's not a long article, but the quote is long, and we'll get into what is being said in the book and what Mom is telling Luke, because she summons Luke to her quarters to discuss his future. So I'll give you that. But this David Miller is making it sound like she's talking about the PT era of Jedi. The notable moment in Star Wars new novel explains key flaws in the prequel era Jedi Order and how its successor avoided such pitfalls. The Jedi Order is infamously portrayed as a well-intended yet highly flawed organization in the prequels, which the Jedi have become complacent, overly restrictive, and losing touch with the Galactic Republic citizenry. The Star Wars EU continuity does not have Luke Skywalker rebuild the old Jedi Order following the events of Return of the Jedi. However, instead, he establishes a new iteration of the Order. The new Jedi Order. So I don't know why you didn't put that. and in significant reform one at that. So note, so they put in this little note here. Modern Star Wars of the prequel, which y'all knew that. I talked about this, that this is how they destroy Luke's character. Because he's supposed to be the heir to all of this, and he's supposed to restructure it to correct any past mistakes, whether he knows it or not. Luke Skywalker's character arc in the Star Wars original trilogy has him walking in truncated and unorthodox path towards the Jedi knighthood. Of course, because back then the Order basically was destroyed. Not the Jedi, but the Order, like physical and stuff. So the training methods had to be unorthodox and stuff to train him. Not only did Luke live an ordinary life as a moisture farmer before beginning his Jedi training, but he also refused to eschew attachments to his family and friends and family, which Obi-Wan and Yoda knew that the end of the failures that overcame the dogmatic failures, I guess you could say, of that. In hindsight, I guess you could say, this ultimately worked in his favor. And one thing, he didn't know too much about if Jedi could marry or not, and he spoke about it with Mara Jade in a novel after the Corellian trilogy, after they got married. So there's that. As his choice to defy the advance of his mentors, the old guard Jedi, Obi-Wan and Yoda, allowed him to redeem Darth Vader. They didn't allow him to redeem Darth Vader. They wanted him to defeat Darth Vader. They didn't believe in redemption. So I don't know where you have this allowed him to redeem Darth Vader, because they didn't believe in that. And resist the temptation of the dark side. So they taught him to recognize the temptation so he can resist, but they didn't allow him. He did that himself due to their training. Positioned him to establish a new and reformed order. In the 1995 novel Ambush at Corellia, which is our basically CAF chat book of the week by Roger McBride Ellen, includes an exchange of dialogue between Luke Skywalker by the Point Grandmaster, which they got wrong because he's not Grandmaster in here. In fact, in the novel, they're still calling him Jedi Master. So at this point, Jedi Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, which this book, like I said, is like 5 or 6 years from the new Jedi Order. And in the new Jedi Order, he doesn't become Grandmaster. When he declares himself Grandmaster is years and years and years later in the Darkness trilogy. And Mon Mothma, the former New Republic chief of state and former member of the Rebel Alliance. So she's not the chief of state anymore. So yeah, you say former, I'm sorry. Altogether, the book was written and published years before the prequels. In words of fascinatingly convey the old order's failing in the movie. So they're not talking. So this right here, let's get into this. She's not necessarily talking about the old order. She's asking him about what he's going to do for the future himself. And we'll get more into this. In the years to come, and so this is Mon Mothma. She had asked or summoned Luke to her quarters, her office, to talk with him. He went in. He had no idea what they were going to talk about, but because he had a lot of respect for her and stuff like that, he went in and they had a discussion. So basically, she is talking about how Leia really cultivated her political inheritance, I guess you can say, and not necessarily her Jedi. And Luke mirrors her, where he cultivated his inheritance and stuff as a Jedi, but not necessarily the political side. So she's challenging both of them, particularly Luke, to step up more in the leader of the political realm, which he questions, like, I'm not going to run for political, any political standings or anything like that. She goes, but no, as long as you come in and understand the politics and step up as a leader, not just someone that just goes and fights and just retreats after that, but a leader of the Jedi and a leader within the galaxy that people can look up to as a leader and blah, 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 which she's already been establishing, right? But she's talking about the political view of that. Then he's able to harness that other side of them, of their inheritance, where Leia, she is cultivating her Jedi side, right? So she's referring to notes of that, not that he is hiding his order and keeping them from the galaxy, what have you, because he is not, because even in the Jedi Knights, the young Jedi Knights and stuff like that, they do work throughout the galaxy and stuff, and even novels before that, they are involved in the galaxy in disputes and stuff. So this is not what she's talking about, but I'm going to get into this right now. In years to come, as Jedi grew from a handful of students into an order of thousands of knights, and she's talking about Luke's order here, will they set themselves up as an elite priesthood or as a band of champions? Are they to be cut off from the people by privilege and mystique and answerable to themselves alone? Or will they act in the service of the people, be intimately bound to the people? Will they be part of the people, the citizenry, or outside of them? Now, you may think, oh, well, she's talking of experience from growing up and knowing the Jedi Order during PT time before the fall. But again, they weren't cut off from people. They worked for the people. In fact, the reason why they stepped up and got involved in the Clone Wars was to protect the people from evil. The reason why they stepped up and fought up against the Sith and were basically defeated was because of the people, the galaxy and stuff. So let's go on. Luke had never considered the question quite that way before. It's obvious what answer you want, he said. But I think it's the answer I would choose no matter what. It seems to me that an order of Jedi that is isolated from its population would be very dangerous thing indeed. It would be very easy to forget the ways of the ordinary folk if you never experienced the things they did. So think about that. So David Miller is thinking that they're, thinking back and discussing the PT era of Jedi. But this is about what he's doing here in the future, what he's doing for himself. Because the conversation even before this was, she asked Luke, what are you doing with yourself now that we're basically in peace right now? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm working. I'm working at the order, training, not needed as much because they're advancing, so I don't step in as much, so he's talking about that. And so she gets into this, like, are you guys going to be secluded or not, or what have you? Doesn't mean she's referring to the PT era of Jedi at all. And so here we go. We're going to finish this up right here. Precisely, Mon Mothma said, I believe and believe strongly that the Republic needs Jedi that get their hands dirty, which she knew they did because she was the one that has always stood by the Jedi from the beginning, even in the dark times, that are part of the Republic's daily life. And she knew that they were part of the Republic's daily life back in the time when she was a young senator, during the PT time. Jedi that live in ivory towers might be more dangerous than no Jedi at all. You need to look no further than the very recent history to see that it has been dark Jedi that have sought the isolation. So she's talking about dark Jedi here. To be a Jedi of the light, a Jedi must be one with the people. There must be a Jedi on every planet, a Jedi in every city, not a few planets full of Jedi and nothing else. There must be Jedi doing what ordinary folks do. Jedi who are ordinary folks, they must be Jedi doctors and judges and soldiers and pilots and politicians. So she basically, she's also not understanding what the Jedis are supposed to do. So in this conversation with Luke, and so this is all they share. He doesn't, this guy, David Miller, doesn't share the rest of the conversation. But she's also sharing how she does not understand the Jedi and what they are responsibilities are per the galaxy. So this is not that the Jedi are evil or wrong or whatever he said here. Let me scroll back up. Let me how everything that shows everything that's wrong with the Jedi. That's not about that. She's sharing her misconception with the Jedi and how she wants them to be perceived. So let me see what you guys are saying. Good old Senator of Chandrila. We've got Revenge of the Sith action figures of Mon Mothma. Yes. Let me see here. It's almost like Disney Star Wars is made by prequel hate red letter media fans. Correct. That's what it seems like, right? And let's see here. Many times the EU, it is stated that the Jedi Order served the office of the Chancellor. They served them, but they served the galaxy. And that's seen throughout the whole entire lore. So it wasn't just that, that, I guess you could say that the office of the Chancellor. And those strong women used to get chance to give birth. Oh, yeah, chosen one, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Let me see here. All right. They totally don't see Star Wars. No, they don't. Wrong. The Jedi stopped following the will of the Force and started following the wants and needs of the Republic, still with good intentions. Not, yeah. All right, let me scroll down here. Sorry, chat, but my post-Endor lore knowledge isn't as epic as my Old Republic knowledge. Yeah, we're kind of opposite, Soul Assassin. So I have homework for you, Soul Assassin. Hey, Screen Rat, the Jedi are good guys, right? Write an article about that, you dummies. And says, let's base the foundation of what the Jedi are or should be on the words of a politician. Laugh my fucking ass off. Well, you can tell a lib wrote this. Yeah, so let me go ahead and find that conversation real quick, and then we'll start wrapping it up. So it is, if you have the book, it starts. Let me scroll down on this article here, because I wanted to get his conversation to you guys, and I should have just recorded it. I just didn't do it, after the fact, and listen to it, so I don't have to read some of it. But that's okay. Let me see here. And he goes on to say, and you believe that my path will guide me to politics, Luke said. And she goes, yes, if for no other reason than because it is your duty to set an example. And you have always been a slave to duty. So one thing she wants him to, get into politics or understand politics. She sees that that's the side he's lacking, whereas Leia's side lacking is her being a Jedi Knight and her being strong as a politician. But then she witnessed how the Jedi got into politics in a sense, and they fell. So this David Miller doesn't make sense of this at all. And she goes on, yes, if for no other reason than because it is your duty to set an example, and you have always been a slave to duty. If you wander off to brood on a hilltop somewhere, your followers will head off to find their own hills to brood on. If you are in the world, so too they will follow that example. And Luke says, I see your point. None too happily. He says that none too happily, and then goes on. Setting a good example was a laudable reason for most things, but it was not one that made the heart beat fast with excitement. And let me find his quote. Do you really think I'll get pulled by that deeply into politics? And she says, I certainly have no way to see into the future. I cannot see your path, but people who will look for your leaders or for leaders and believe they will look to you. So she's basically saying, we're in a peacetime right now. So what are you going to do with yourself? Why don't you come into politics a little bit, be a figure, a public figure, so people have something to look up to. And he's like, I suppose it's possible. But this all leads into, and it's so funny, and this is where I think this hiccup in this book is, which goes in and leads into, if you read the book, leads into her saying, oh, well, by the way, have you seen Lando? And he's like, yeah, and I've been on missions with him before, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about Lando. So this leads into Lando. And she goes, well, I have something for you to do. So basically Lando is in the process of doing a business type mission for himself, to find himself a wife that complements his business demeanor. So he's looking to settle down, but also this is also a business venture. So she asks Luke to go on this mission with him to keep an eye on him, to make sure that he doesn't fall wayside in the business politics of things and stuff like that. So basically, this isn't about how the old Jedi, the PT era of Jedi were. This is just her thoughts on how she thinks Luke should be. And that it's peacetime. So if he's off doing his own thing, but then also helping training, his Jedi, because he has, his niece, his nephew, and his niece and nephews and other in the Praxium right now, training and stuff like that. He's building the order, but he's only doing that and then having time to himself. And he is a public figure. So why don't he just get into politics a little bit and still be in the front line, I guess you can say. Still be involved, which is kind of funny. And this is kind of off. This is where you can get where this is kind of off a little bit with this focus here. Because she knows that Luke is always ready for a mission, ready to stand up for a cause, ready to do something. So why doesn't she kind of respect his downtime a little bit for himself? I don't know. That's how I see this, but this has nothing to do with the PT era whatsoever and how the Jedi were back then. So let's see here. So she asked him to repeat the mistakes of the PT era. Laughed my ass off. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's how I see it. Many brothers died to bring us this information. Are Bothans, not brothers. Jeez, I can't even fucking read today. Wow, I'm amazed by that. Oh yeah, Luke's past did get him into politics but heads with Dala multiple times, tell his self-exile. I don't blame him. Politics suck. Right? Right? But basically in this book, before she asked him to go on this mission and keep an eye on Lando, she discusses how him and Leia are polar opposites, which we know they were polar opposites. We know that even though she has the temperament of Anakin and stuff, she inherited the political savviness of her mom. And she was raised that way, by the way. And then whereas Luke, he was raised ordinary. He had the less hardships in life because he was raised so ordinary on a moisture farm. Even though he had his mother's demeanor, he inherited the Jedi way, right? And so we have these polar opposites. So we see Luke eventually after this series or after this trilogy of learning more, leaning more into politics because he has to understand it, right? Because of his position. And then Leia finally, after so many years, becoming a Jedi Knight. But Luke never becomes a politician. He understands the political ways, but he understands he's not savvy like his sister. So this, and by any ways, is not showing how wrong the Jedi are. This is showing how Mon Mothma perceives the Jedi is so wrong. There's a difference in that. There's a huge, significant difference in that. Let me see what you guys are saying. Making a war criminal like Dala chief of state makes no sense. I'd never understood trying to make her remotely sympathetic or as a good guy. I don't think they were making her a sympathetic good guy here. I think at the time she was one of the better choices, which shows that Luke failed with that because he's not perfect, and there's ramifications for that. Obviously. So there, so I understood that and understood the ramifications of that. So they took a quote out of context and used it yet again in spite of Lucas's face. Got it, yeah. Obi-Wan didn't trust politicians, and with good reason. Correct. So again, this is not about how wrong the PT era of Jedi are. This is basically this quote that you shared, and you failed to share with us the context surrounding this quote. Had nothing to do with the PT era Jedi. It was more or less Mon Mothma's view on how she thinks Luke should act and be from this point forward, and perceiving the Jedi in a different way, a wrong way, and stuff like that. And for her own selfish needs, I guess you can say, in a sense. If you're saying it's selfish, I don't think she's selfish. She's just clearly wrong. Because you could be clearly wrong and not have these ways. So I take it back. So her perception of the Jedi are completely wrong here. It's not that the Jedi are wrong. So here we go. 2 cringe factor articles, one from the Old Republic era, and then one from the post-Return of the Jedi era, one from Collider, one from Screen Rant, both completely wrong in their stances. So thank you guys again for this. A woman in Star Wars wrong? Yes, a woman in Star Wars wrong. Oh my God. Right? Mon Mothma perceived the Jedi wrong here. She was clearly wrong about this. And that's why Luke was so confused in this book. And this, oh shit, I closed the book entirely. And this was around pages like 45 and stuff like that. But the chapter this is in is called The Dangers of Peace. So the dangers of peace basically is going maybe placid or not being ready for just in case, not being actively ready and actively involved during peacetime, I guess. I don't know. But the chapter is called from this Corellian ambush at Corellia. It's the chapter Dangers of Peace. So if you have the book, you can go back and read it and stuff like that. So much cringe. I gotta go. I have a great have a great day, friends. Yes, you have a great day too. We're getting ready to wind down here. 2 articles, 4 times the cringe. Everybody has this what is called the bitter beer face kind of cringe. This is outrageous. It's unfair. How dare you, right? See you later, Scran. Yes, I agree. Thank you for dropping in and hanging out. And Soul Assassin says, y'all want to know a fun fact? OG has a lot more not safe for tea on the space scene. Seriously, she makes me look nice in the chat. Yes, I'm just being authentically me. I say crazy shit all the damn time. And I'm not afraid to be lewd. I'm not afraid to have fun with stupid, crazy humor. Even though I'm a lady, I'm not afraid of that. So let's go ahead and check out Vector Prime. Since we're talking a bit about pre-New Jedi Order lore, let's check out the beginning.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the New Jedi Order.
All right, you guys. So thank you again for tuning in. I greatly appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're catching the replay, I greatly appreciate you for coming in and sitting down and listening to and getting involved and all of that. Again, if you haven't had a chance, press that like button. Subscribe most of all. And become a channel member if you can afford it. And again, thank you so much. CAF Chat will be back next Thursday. Beginning with Lore Talk, The Exiles. That should be fun. I can't wait for that. Exploring more in depth of the Old Republic and pre-Old Republic lore. This is so much fun. And I should have gave us a palate cleanser after those 2 articles. So thank you for sitting through Cringe Factor as well. And catch me Friday on the spacing. And go check out Raging Rhino's Casual Rage tonight. And thank you once again for always tuning in. And may the Force be with you.
Another happy landing.